Hi everyone, subscribe to our channel and drop your thought in the comment below. What do you think about uncovering hidden gems like the Ar-2? Ar-2, the forgotten hero of Soviet aviation. In the summer of 1941 and the sky over World War II, the battlefields are ablaze. Soviet forces and fight tooth and nail to hold back the enemy. Amid the chaos, unique plane images, one that could tipped the scale but somehow slipped into obscurity. Meet the Ar-2, the Soviet Union's first and only true dive bomber and the star of the war. Oh, why was the game changer forgotten? Why did its story fade while others took the spotlight? Let's dive into the gripping tale, pack it with surprise, bold innovation, and the touch of unfair twist. Back in the late 1930s, the Soviet Union was gearing up for the turbulent future. War was looming and the air power was becoming the key to victory. Enter Alexander Arkhangelsky, a brilliant engineer working under the legendary Tupolev. He had a bold idea: transform the well-known FB bomber into something groundbreaking, a dive bomber that could strike with a pinpoint accuracy. This wasn't just a tweak, it was a leap forward for Soviet aviation. The SB, or Speedy Bomber, was already a star. Built in 1934, it was the first Soviet bomber that could outrun many fighters of its day. But by 1937, it was clear that dropping bombs from high altitudes wasn't cutting it. Targets like tanks, bridges, or bunkers needed precision. That's where dive bombing came in, a daring tactic where a plane dives steeply forward its target, releasing bombs with deadly accuracy. Arkhangelsky drew inspiration from Germany U-87, which had proven it worse in Spain's Civil War. He knew the Soviets needed their own dive bomber, one that was powerful, reliable, and easy to produce. He began the journey of the Ar-2, a plane meant to meet the demand of a new kind of war. A dive bomber isn't just any plane, it's a precision weapon that can change the tide of battle. Imagine an enemy tank rolling across a field surrounded by troops. A regular bomber drops its load from miles up, often missing the mark. A dive bomber, too, plunges toward the ground at a steep angle, releasing its bomb from just hundreds of feet away. The odds of hitting the target skyrocket. Destroy a bridge or an ammo depot and you could cripple an entire army with the strike. But dive bombing is not walk in the park. The plane becomes a sitting duck for anti-crowd guns and enemy fighters. Pilots need nerves of steel to dive straight at the ground, knowing that might not pull up in time. The Ar-2 was built for his high strikers mission, and its design reflection that challenge. Let's pop the hold of the plane. The Ar-2 wasn't faster or the flashiest, but it was smartly designed and well balanced. It could hit a top speed of about 250 miles per hour when fully loaded. For comparison, the German U-87, nicknamed the Stuka, topped out at around 210 miles per hour. Speed wasn't the Ar-2's biggest trait, though its real power was in its versatility. The Ar-2 could carry up to 3 bombs, each weighing over 10,000 pounds. That was a hefty payload for its time. By contrast, the P-2, which later became the Soviet go-to bomber, could only handle about 1,300 pounds of bombs in 1941. This firepower let the Ar-2 take our bridges, smash tanks, columns, and wreak havoc on the enemy troops. What else set it apart? First, it had a dive autopilot, a nifty system that kept the plane steady during the dive, making it easier for pilot to aim. Second, it had air brakes, special flaps on the wings that slowed the plane down during the dive, boosted accuracy. These features were cutting edge for the era and made the Ar-2 a force to be reckoned with. The crew was well protected too. The plane had bulletproof fire tanks and some armor plating, which helped it survive enemy fire. Its weapons include a nose-mounted machine gun, a top turret, and a belly gun, letting the crew fend off attacks from multiple angles. The real was a bit vulnerable, but we get to that later. To see why the Ar-2 was such a big deal, let's compare it to other Soviet bombers of the time. The Il-2, the famous flaming tanks, was great for ground support but carried fewer bombs and has had weak defense early in the war. The Il-4, a long-range bomber, was slow and lighter armored. The 2 a later star, wasn't even used as a dive bomber in 1941, despite being designed for it. The Ar-2 thus was a true dive bomber. Its cold swoop from 10,000 to 30,000 feet, dodging anti-aircraft fire and deliver precise strikes. Best of all, it was easy to fly. Pilots already familiar with the SB could hop into an Ar-2 with minimal training, a huge plus when time was short. Now let's tackle the big question. Why did the Ar-2 get overshadowed by the P-2? On paper, the P-2 looked like the winner. Its call hit speed of nearly 400 miles per hour had a sleek design and promised room for upgrades, but it rarely was measured. The P-2 was built as a dive bomber, but early in the war it wasn't used that way. Its air brakes and a dive autopilot were removed to make a fighter, stripping away its main advantage. Instead, it was flown as a regular fast bomber, which wasn't ideal. The Ar-2, on the other hand, was a dive bomber two of twos, and the pilot used an incident. Pilots loved the Ar-2 handling. They said it flew smoother than the SB and was far more reliable than the P-2. The P-2 had a nasty habit of breaking in the landing gear, especially with rookie crews. Over 1 in 3 P-2 losses in 1941 came from crashes during takeoff or landing, not combat. The Ar-2 had no such issue, making it a safer bet for less experienced pilots. So why did the P-2 steal the show? It wasn't just about performance, it was politics. The P-2 design Vladimir Petlikov had powerful backed, including Stalin himself. This gave the P-2 priority in factory and upgrades. The Ar-2, despite its threats, didn't have that kind of clout. The summer of 1941 was do or die for the Ar-2. The Soviet Air Forces took heavy losses. This plane stepped up and proved its worth. Pilots used it to hammer enemy attack columns, bridges, and fortify positions with precision. One standout moment happened near Zhytomyr, and rout of 12 Ar-2 attacks, a German tank column dropping 72 bombs, each weighing over 200 pounds. Four German Bf 108 fighters tried to intervene, but the Soviet gunner held them off with fierce fire. One Ar-2 took a direct hit to its engine, but still limped back to base and landed safely. German pilots later admitted the chasing down an Ar-2 was not easy task, thanks to its agility and defensive firepower. On the Thorian front, where Soviet forces faced weaker Romanian fighter, the Ar-2 shone even brightest. It pounded enemy position, taking out equipment and troops with ease. The mission showed the Ar-2 wasn't just a prototype, it was the battle-ready machine that delivered the results. Officially, the Ar-2 was passed out because it wasn't fast enough and had weak real defenses. But let's look at the number. In 1941, the Ar-2 lost on plane for every 40 mission. The P-2, one loss for every 11 mission. The AR was clearly holding its own. The real reason were deeper. In 1941, Soviet leaders were betting big and huge. The P-2 was seen as a future, as resources poured into it. Arkhangelsk didn't have a political pull, and that Petlikov did. And that made all difference. Plus, wartime production was chaotic. Factories needed plane fast, and the P-2 was already rolling off assembly line. To understand the Ar-2 fate, let's zoom out. In 1941, the Soviet Union was in survival mode. German forces were advancing, factories were being relocated east, and resources were stretching thin. The Soviets built around 15,000 planes that year, but many were outdated or ill-suited for modern combat. The Ar-2, despite its strength, didn't fit the rush for mass production. Economically, the P-2 was the shinier option. It was marketed as the next big thing, and that hype carried weight. But if the Soviet had invested in upgrading the Ar-2, it could have been a game changer. Its simplicity and reliability made it perfect for the chaotic early war years. Looking back for 2025, the Ar-2 feels like a mission opportunity. In today's world where precision strike like those from drones rule the battlefield, the Ar-2's focus on accuracy seems almost prophetic. If the Soviets had doubled down on it, the early stages of the war might play out differently. What could have been? Imagine this. The Ar-2 get the green light upgrade with better engines and stronger guns. It became the backbone of Soviet dive bombing, shading German tanks and bridges with surgical precision. The enemy advanced slow, saving countless lives. It might not have won the war single-handedly, but it could be made a huge difference. The Ar-2 was ahead of the time, reliable, effective, and easy to build. But history doesn't do what-ifs. The Ar-2 was left behind and others took the glory. The Ar-2 wasn't just a plane, it was a symbol of grit and hope. Subscribe to our channel for more hidden stories like this. Drop a comment and tell us what you think about the Ar-2 or what of often forgotten heroes you want to hear about. Your voice keeps history alive. Let's honor those who toiled for freedom together. Thank you. Bye bye.